The New Era, Chapter 26. Subject, Staff Sergeant Powers. Species, human. Species description, mammalian humanoid, no tail. 6 foot 2 inches or 1.87 meters average height. 185 pounds, 84 kilograms average weight. 170-year life expectancy. Ship, NA. Location, classified. "Move, move, move!" I shouted as the hatch hissed open. Simmons took points as our fire team rushed out of the landing craft, rifles at the ready. A group of drones were waiting for us with their hands held outwards, palms facing up. Omega and its contact had agreed on this being the sign that the drones were part of the rebellion. We moved past them, and 2 additional MARSOC fire teams joined us in securing the perimeter as Marines and crates began being unloaded from the shuttle. My team and I kept our weapons trained down the massive hallway to the shuttle's left, looking for any sign of enemy force. However, further down the hall were other Marines doing the exact same thing we were. One of them treated us to a silly wave, and Simmons chuckled as he waved back. Soon after, though, a distant staccato of gunfire came from behind us. Omega had taken the Omni-Union's eyes and ears from them, so the odds of running into security forces were low. But it would seem that someone got unlucky. Every Marine was equipped with armor-piercing ammunition, though, so hopefully they would be fine. 3 rank-and-file Marines approached us and set down a crew-served machine gun. "All right, gents, we got it from here," one of them said. The Orion's Firearms .60 caliber CS-30A machine gun was fairly new as far as crew-served weapons go. It was smaller than the 50 cal M2HB, but the CS-3A was designed to be used against up-armored vehicles and unshielded shuttles. As such, the triggers were placed on the side of the weapon and the ejection port on the top, which allowed the weapon to achieve a much higher angle of elevation in awkward positions. Because the ejection port is on the top, though, it's definitely not a weapon you want by using without a guardian suit. Once the gun was finished securing itself to the ground, the corporal and 2 other Marines took their position and loaded it. It made a satisfying clunk as the fresh bolt of 60 cal AP ammo was secured into place. I gestured to my team and began looking for an officer for further orders. "Got a mission for you, Staff Sergeant," Omega said, startling me. "We need to secure the FTL gate." "FTL gate?" I asked, as a new marker appeared on my heads-up display. "Yes, the Grand Vessel is massive, so much so that it would take several lifetimes to traverse it without FTL travel. It would be extremely inefficient to install FTL drives on each and every shuttle that the Omni-Union operates, so they utilize gates to maintain FTL tunnel, for lack of a better phrase. We need to secure this gate and system. There are active FTL wormholes in the ship. Tunnel is more accurate description, but yes. However, there is no cause for alarm. It functions quite similarly to our FTL communications." "What about the radiation?" "Actually, they have remarkably efficient radiation absorption on these gates. Unfortunately, we've designed our tech to work around and with radiation, so their technology will have little to no impact on the way we currently utilize FTL. Perhaps it can be used to make more efficient reactors. At any rate, we need to make sure that we can use these gates. Otherwise, this assault is going to last much, much longer than your natural lifespan, which is fine so long as it keeps the OU out of the Milky Way. But it would be less than an ideal situation." "Understood," I said. I explained our mission to my team as the 2 fire teams that had secured the perimeter joined us. The leader of each team walked up to me, and the rest of the Marines began to mingle. Their icons changed to indicate that they were now under my command. "They got you as Alpha Team," Staff Sergeant Ramirez chuckled. "Guess that answers the question of who's in charge." "Good to see you again, Ramirez," I replied. "I've got Sergeant Hanson and Smith, as well as Corporals Johnson and Simmons." "I've got all corporals," Ramirez said. "Escott, Fairman, Fogg, and Wiseman." "Damn, you're lucky. I got mostly Boots," Gunnery Sergeant Kim sighed. "Corporal Dewey, Lance Corporals Goots, Longhall, and Quartermain." "Are they still trainees?" I asked. "Yeah, but they're towards the end of it. All that's left is to get them time in the pit." "That sucks," Ramirez laughed. "Imagine doing all of this and then having to go through the pit." The pit, known to the test of the galaxy as the Olympus Mons Marine Corps Training Base, hosts the final test of various species operations programs, including the Marine Special Operations Command Program. MARSOC candidates are pitted, no pun intended, against trained wet work operatives in a month-long survival simulation. The crater of the giant, long-dead volcano offers a wide variety of both simulated and natural environments to test the capabilities of potential MARSOC operatives. Honestly, surviving the harsh environment is the easy part. The hard part is the psychological warfare that candidates have to endure. There are two parts to these tests. The first part determines how well a candidate fails the impossible objectives they are given. The second part determines how well the candidate resists various interrogation techniques once they are inevitably captured, whilst trying to accomplish their impossible objectives. Many critics argue that these tests are barbaric and outdated. They say that there are many modern methods of testing a person's integrity and capability, and forcing trainees to risk their lives just to prove themselves as mere bravado. Honestly, they may be right, but the Marine Corps is as open to change as a mountain range, plus the results speak for themselves. Well, at least they seem to be getting along, Gunny Kim said with a dark chuckle. I turned to find him staring at Colonel Simmons and Lance Corporal Quatermain. Their body language suggested a heated debate, but they were using point-to-point comms to do it. I could only hope that the discussion didn't end with Simmons getting yet another referral to species relations. We let the Marines mingle for another minute while we discussed our formation, then broke them up and grabbed the gear from the list Omega gave us. The least senior of each team was given a portable cover to carry. By the time we started to head out, the shuttle we had arrived on had been replaced by a new one with more Marines and crates. As we made our way down the cavernous corridor, the thud of our boots set me on edge a bit. In preparation for the invasion, we had swapped out our stealth gear for a standard loadout. I'd grown so used to the quietness of the R-8B Advanced Guardian suit that the R-8A kind of felt like wearing a cannonless tank. Despite the extra weight of the portable covers, we were able to move a fairly distant rapid pace. Omega had sealed most of the security doors, so we rarely had to check intersections. Still, the closer we got to our destination, the more adrenaline pumped through me. This FTL gate thing is a vital objective, so vital that it needs to be seized as soon as possible. As such, Omega was forced to send units to do so. But why 3 fire teams? One well-armed and armored fire team is perfectly capable of forming a defensive perimeter that would be difficult to penetrate. 2 would be more reasonable, but most commanders would call it overkill. More than 2 means... We came to a stop in front of the door that was similar to that one we had to pry open during our last visit. Simmons nodded at Johnson, who placed a detonation cord around the frame of the door. We formed up and prepared to breach on Simmons' mark. "Go!" he shouted. Johnson triggered the dead cord, and a dull thud rocked the corridor as Simmons slammed himself into the door with the full weight of his Guardian suit. The sound of the door hitting the ground was immediately followed by the sound of lasers hitting energy shields. Simmons began to fire and seek cover as the rest of us followed him into the room. "Deploy covers!" Gunny Kim ordered. Several of the VI platforms were standing towards the center of the room, flanked by 2 gigantic mechs. Sergeant Smith deployed the portable cover he was carrying, and the 3 other members of the team got behind it. I began making my way in their direction as I picked off the humanoid platforms to decrease the enemy's volume of fire. Just before I reached them, a vaguely familiar whirring noise made the hair on the back of my neck stand. "Get down!" I shouted. I hit the deck at a mere moment before a ball of plasma flew over my head. A wave of heat managed to make its way through the suit's climate control, and my shields fizzled down to a quarter of their capacity. A sickening pop came from behind me as I focused my fire on the mech that hadn't launched its plasma, hoping to prevent it from doing so. My bullets pinged off as its armored torso and legs, but seemed to have an effect on its arms and joints. Once my mag went dry, I leaned on my side and grabbed one of the cubes hanging from my suit's caress. With my thumb, I twisted the top of the cube and pressed the resulting indentation. "Grenade out!" I called, tossing the cube towards the mech. It soared through the air as the ominous whirring sound began again. As the second mech's lower arm began to glow, the grenade exploded directly beneath it, swell-formed torso. I reloaded my weapon as the mech recovered and began to fire its lasers again. Veerman and Dewey tossed grenades at first mech, and after a couple concussive thuds, it fell into a pile of scrap. "Check on Quatermain," Gunny Kim shouted. "He's just legs, Gunny," Longhorn replied with a shaky voice. "Focus fire," I ordered. "Drop the mech." 2 more grenades clattered to the ground beneath the remaining mech and detonated. The massive machine collapsed onto a couple of bots as we renewed our assault. 1 magazine later, and the room fell silent. "Status," I said, climbing to my feet. 4 green lights lit up on my own HUD. I glanced to my Marines. Thankfully, they were all still standing. My eyes then fell to the remains of Corporal Quartermain. It was a sight that wasn't exactly alien to me, but I knew I'd see it again in the next time I slept. 1 down, Kim reported. KIA. Shit, Ramirez shook his head at the sight. Sorry, Gunny. My team is all green, Staff Sergeant. Omega, do we have reinforcements en route? I asked, unable to look away from Quartermain's remains. Yes. Roger that. Okay, bag him and tag him for retrieval, I ordered. The room we were in was even larger than the corridor we had come from. On the far side was a pit with several shuttles parked nearby. 3 obvious points of entry in the form of doors grabbed my attention. All right, I'm guessing the pit is the warp gate thing, I said. Ramirez, Kim, your teams will take the doors. My team will keep an eye on the gate. Relay that, Omega said. You need to board one of those shuttles. Fuck that, Kim and Ramirez said in unison. Omega, we're under-equipped, I argue. We need AT before we push through the gate. I took a quick glance at the pit. The gate itself was obvious, the multicolored metal circle suspended about halfway down the pit. But the only sign of a wormhole was a slight waviness in the air and an occasional glimmer of light, like a tiny amount of glitter in a tub full of crystal-clear water. The other side of the gate is unguarded at the moment, the AI assured us. The OU doesn't have access to this side, so your defensive perimeter needs to be on the other side. Just playing devil's advocate, but that'll also mean that we can have more guns facing out, Simmons said. And what about Quartermain? Kim asked. A full platoon is on its way, Omega said. Once they arrive, they'll transport him back to the rear. Yeah, that's obvious. I was asking about when we'll get our chance for payback. I see, the AI chuckled. Tell you what, once the gate's secured, I'll let you be the tip of the spear that we drive into the heart of the Omni-Union. As a matter of fact, if all goes according to plan, you'll be the first ones to confront their leadership. How does that sound? Hoorah, we replied. Payback. Can you really get that against machines that are next to mindless? Can an automaton that's completely devoid of a soul even understand the desire for revenge? Virtual intelligences don't even mourn their dead unless they're programmed to, and even then, it's performative. They can't be killed, only broken. A VI platform, or even an AI platform, can be rebuilt the same way it was before it was broken. It can even pick up exactly where it left off, completely unaware that it has been broken in the first place. We can't. Lance Corporal Quartermain and all of those who will be joining him are gone for good. These somber thoughts accompanied me while we boarded one of the Omni-Union shuttles. As Omega powered up the craft, another thought occurred to me. You can't get payback from robots, only their creators. End of chapter. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.